Hi y'all, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today I am here with the fifth project in our Handmade Holiday Series, which began October 1st and will run through Tuesday, December 3rd. This time of year, I always like to design some type of box or cubby in which I can put little gifts or small collections of similar items and then gift those. So this is the 2019 design. So there's a snap closure on the flap there. And then when you get inside, there's a little fabric tie closure, which is long enough to knot or fashion in a bow. And then plenty of room on the inside for a collection of cosmetics. You could put baked goods inside of there, small toys if a child is going to be the recipient of this. This would also be ideal for jewelry as well, or smaller things that you don't want the size of the box to give away the contents, okay? So this is a very simple, fun sew, but I think it really is a gift in a gift, you know? So shall we get started? Okay, so for this project, we're going to be working with the 6x6 squares again, and you're going to need 10 of those, 5 for the exterior, 5 for the interior, and then you're going to need 2 5x5 squares for the flap, 1 snap or magnetic closure. You could also use a press lock on this, that would be adorable. And then you're going to need 2 long fabric rectangles which measure 2 by 18, and we're going to use those to craft the little tie closure. This is a great beginner sewing project and a wonderful way for you to test out the T method. Now, in addition to the cotton fabric, you are also going to need an iron-on interfacing here. This is FS08, and that is produced by Fairfield. I used that for the actual body pieces, and then for the base I used a stiffer, more rigid backing such as AFS04, and that was just for the base of the exterior, and that's going to make sure that this has the support that you need for heavier items, and it will also offer the project more stability so that it stands on its own. And you will just cut those pieces to the same dimensions, 6x6 or 5x5 for the flat closure. So I have pre-crafted the interior. It is assembled in exactly the same way as the exterior, so I'm just going to show you how to do that. I'll bring the camera a little closer. Okay, so we're going to begin with 5 of these 6x6 panels, which have the medium weight fusible interfacing attached to 4 of those, and then the heavyweight stabilizer attached to the base. We're going to take the front panel and position one of the side panels, right sides facing on that, and then using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, stitch down that right hand side. And then you're going to open that up. This is my side panel here on the right. This is my center panel. Here the floral, and I'm just going to turn that around so you can see, and I'm going to position the second side panel right sides facing on the opposite side of that center front panel, stitch down that using 3/8 of an inch, And that creates a trifold panel, which will comprise the two sides and the front of my box. I'm going to set that aside and then bring over my base panel with the stiff stabilizer and my rear panel, and I'm going to position those right sides facing and stitch along one edge. Then I'll bring back over the tri-folding panel, and I'm going to center the base panel on the center of the trifold panel, or right over that front floral piece, and I'm only stitching from bump to bump or seam to seam. So I'm going to be stopping 3/8 of an inch from the edge there. Okay, and that's what that looks like. Now I need to attach that rear panel, the side of the rear panel, to the side of my side panel, and align that top edge first, and then stitch from that bottom seam to that top edge. If you need to, you can pin this, and I do think that it's easier to go ahead and bring up that second side and align that now as well, and then sew both of those from that bottom seam to the top edge. And then at this point, you should really be able to see your box taking shape. The last thing that you need to do is sew up those bottom sides there, and you just reach inside of there and align those edges, and then stitch seam to seam. Alright, and now I have a super cute box ready to roll. I just want to turn this right sides out. So then I want to take those seams and open those up, and you can press these open if you like, and then fold that top edge over 1/2 inch so that it turns inward, and then go ahead and pin those corners first. And then you'll craft your interior using the exact same method. You do not need the heavy stabilizer on the base of the interior. You could add it though if you like. So you're going to take your interior and insert that inside of the exterior. You'll notice that interior edge is turned outward and comes over onto the wrong side of that. And so begin by just lining up those corners first, and you can reuse those same pins to hold all of the layers nice and even. And because this has the 2 layers of interfacing, it's lightweight, but it does definitely stand up nice on its own, which is great for Christmas gifts and other holiday goodies. So I want to set this aside and craft the flap closure, which is made from the 5x5 squares. Only one of those, the exterior, will need the midway interfacing. You'll position those 2 5x5 squares right sides facing. You have the option now, if you'd like to angle your flap, you can do that. You could also round that, or you can leave it nice and square. And I will leave it square for this sample so you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to begin by stitching down the side, across the base or the bottom of the flap there, and then up the remaining side. I'm going to leave the top open so I can turn and press. stitched all the way around that. With these square corners, you're just going to want to clip those corners so that when you turn this, you can poke out those corners nice and square. And one of the turning tools that comes with the polyfill is awesome for poking out those corners. And then after you get the corners poked out, you just want to give this a nice press. And then we're going to top stitch it and install the snap. That's what the flap looks like after you turn it. And now I'm just going to come with 3/8 of an inch and top stitch along those finished edges. And I have my flap nicely finished. Now I want to install a snap on that flap. So the snaps come in 4 pieces. You have the decorative head, the prongs for the back, and this decorative head also has prongs on it. And then you have the male portion of that snap and the female portion. So the decorative head with the prongs will be centered in approximately 1 inch up on that flap. And you'll poke the prongs through to the back. And again, my polyfill turning stick is a lifesaver because I can use that to poke that material through those prongs without hurting my fingers. Then you'll take the female portion of the snap and position it right on top of those prongs. And I like to use a small hammer. I'm just going to give that a couple good whacks. And then you'll insert that male portion inside of there, and we will use the remaining prong in just a few minutes, so set that aside momentarily. And now we want to position the flap in between the interior and the exterior layers on the back side of that box. So I'm just going to slip that in. And you'll just come down approximately 1 inch between those layers, center it between those seams, and make sure that it is nice and even, and then pin through the flap, the interior and the exterior to hold that all in place. And then we need to craft the tie closure. I have one side of that finished. Again, it's crafted from a 2-inch wide by 18-inch long rectangle of cotton fabric. Take one short edge of that and press it over 1/2 inch. And then using the Sewspire strap method, fold that in half long ways and press. Then open that up and bring the raw edges inward to meet on that center press line. Press again. And then fold the entire strap in half and press. Then you'll just come in and stitch almost right down the center of that narrow fabric tie. Okie dokes. So I have my 2 ties finished. The folded edges will be on the outside of the box, and then the raw edges are getting positioned in between the interior and exterior layers at center on each side panel. And same thing, insert those 1 inch to 1.5 inches down into that lining and pin that in place. Repeat the process on the other side. And then you're going to remove your machine deck and stitch all the way around that top edge, reinforcing with a back stitch at the ties to secure all of those layers. I like to begin at the flap to ensure that that does not shift as I move the project underneath the machine. Okay, and then I am almost done. It is so sweet, right? These are just fun. Who wouldn't want just even this box, really? Okay, so the next step is to kind of fold your box flat here so we can decide where we need to position that prong so that the flap will close nice and even. So you want to make sure that those front and rear panels are aligned so that the box is not crooked when it's snapped closed, and that the flap is aligned on the center there. And what I do is just feel with my hand there and take a pin and mark where those prongs should come up. So I have my remaining prong set there, and I'm just going to come over and under from the interior, center those prongs on that pin, and then start poking those prongs through the front. And then once I can see those prongs, then I can take this flap and position that male portion of the snap, which I inserted inside of the female portion, right on top of those prongs. And if you press with your finger, nothing should shift. Just hold everything in place there and give that a few good whacks. Okay, look inside and just make sure that everything is assembled properly. Then if you like, now's a good time to iron. And then the way that this works is you will take the two ties and pull those inward to draw the sides in, and then you can knot or tie that in a bow. And I thought it was cute to let the long ties hang over the edge there. You could even double knot if you don't want them to open this until the 25th. And then you will bring the front and the rear panels inward and snap that top closure like that. And you just tuck in those sides and straighten up the seams, and that will give you a very unique shape for this box. Super duper cute. I love it. It's adorable. Okay, and then I just want to show you one more option there for closing this up, and that would be to leave that interior knotted like it was. So I just pulled on that bow there to untie it, and then bring those ends up and tie a little bow on the top of this. So now you have a little carry handle, in addition to adding one more layer of intrigue as they untie the bow, open the flap, unknot, and gasp with sheer delight at your thoughtfulness. So I hope you all enjoyed this project. As always, it was an absolute pleasure to sew with you. I hope you are also enjoying the Handmade Holiday Series as a whole. I am trying to provide a variety of projects for men, women, children, gifts such as this that are just completely gender neutral and can be given to anyone really on your list if you choose the right material for them. So I will be back next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time to share the 6th project in our Handmade Holiday Series here at Sewspire.com. Please head on over to the blog and check out some of the past handmade holiday projects if you haven't had a chance to do that yet, in addition to the behind the scenes with Andrea. So we will touch base again on Friday, and then I will actually see you on Tuesday. Until then, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Have an awesome week, everyone.